you are. We'll do one more quick sound check. Tracy, then Rosalind, then David.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon, good morning.
It's a little soft, Tracy, so when you speak, just maybe a little bit louder when we launch you. Okay.
Good day, everyone.
Perfect. We hear you wonderfully. Thank you, Rosalind. David?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is well.
Excellent. Great. Really excited to have wonderful speakers from around the world on this really important topic, which has caught everybody's attention. People have been working on it for several decades when we talk about access to medicines. And there are some regions in the world which are quite advanced in pool procurement. And there are some parts of the world which are picking this up now for various reasons, and you'll hear more about that as well. So this topic is very appropriate, very timely, and there's a lot of action happening, especially on the African continent, but beyond as well. So before we jump into the exciting details, may I ask the team to launch the PowerPoint, and we'll go through a step-by-step process. I want to share the agenda with you so you know what to expect. Go ahead, next slide. Wonderful. All right. So here we go. So overall, I'm going to basically moderate, provide some technical input, but you'll hear a lot from the others. So I'm going to guide the discussion, weave the discussions. I'm going to focus on that. We'll go on to having a participant poll so you all see who you are, who are the people that have joined us. And then we give an overview. Overview of that as well. Number two, we're actually going to change the order a bit. Have we changed in the presentation? David's going to speak first, because in the agenda, yes? Okay. And then in the speakers, first David, who's written as speaker, session number 3, will actually speak first. And he'll set the stage from a technical perspective, just a few slides. We then jump into Tracy's experience, country-led. She's from the Ministry of Health in Kenya, and give you the Kenya perspective. And then the third speaker, Rosalind, Kenyan origin, but sits in the Caribbean, and she's led the whole pool procurement in the Caribbean, which is one of the leading pool procurement agencies that have been working on this for more than 2 to 3 decades. You'll hear from her. And then we'll go into careers in this area, procurement, supply chain, access to medicines, and how you as individuals can follow different potential career paths. You'll hear from David, Rosalind, and Tracy, how they've achieved what they have and where they are today, and if these are some of the careers that you'd like to follow and understand. Next slide. We'll end with an interactive session. You'll get to type in your questions, and the speakers will respond to as many of those as we can before the end of the full session. We'll try and stick to exactly 1 hour so we don't keep you too long. You will then have, this is the interesting part, a post-webinar poll, but also a certificate of participation and formal closure. I hope the links are working this time around. Please double check. Okay, we had some trouble last time. Next slide, please. My name is Professor Paul Lalvani. I'm the founder and executive director of Empower School of Health. I'm based in Geneva. I've been working in the area of procurement, supply chain, pharmaceutical manufacturing for more than 30 years now, developed and developing countries, and formerly with WHO, Global Fund, MSH, and then founded Empower School of Health with a focus on building institutional, and workforce capacity. Next slide, please. These are our three speakers, as I mentioned. So we've got, let me start with David first. David is the executive director of the African Pharmaceutical Network, APN. We'll then go to Tracy, the senior deputy director, Pharmaceutical Services, Ministry of Health of Kenya, and then followed by Rosalind Opal, former head of pool procurement services in the Caribbean. Next slide. All right, can I request the team to launch the poll? So this will take you literally 2 minutes to answer maybe 5 or 6 questions. So everyone stay tuned. Here we go. The poll is launched. Question 1, which country or region are you representing or where you are from? And it's not South Africa, it's Southern Africa. So treat that as Southern Africa. And it's EU and Americas, not Americans. Sorry for the typos. We already have 100 people who've completed this. Great. Very good. While people continue to fill it in, almost 50% have participated. I see a lot of people from Ministry of Health or government agencies, almost 50%. We've got about 15% from development partners, industry, another 15%, academia 5%, and others about 15% as well. A few donors, a few students, and a few UN agencies as well. Focus, which focus group do you belong to? Regulatory authorities, 6%, manufacturers, 22%, supply chain procurement professionals, 27%, public health, 21%, students and others, 13% and 10%. Most of you have 0 to 5 years experience. The next group is 6 to 10 years experience. The main reason, how familiar are you with pooled procurement? What I'm hearing is somewhat familiar and heard about it, but limited understanding is 75%. Does your country or organization or you as an individual currently participate in pooled procurement? About 20% across, yes, limited, and another 27%, actually 50% not sure or not involved right now. And the main reason for coming here is to understand more, okay? 91% are from Kenya, 3%, the rest of you, basically another remaining 10% scattered across Africa. Wonderful. Can you stop the poll so people can quickly just see the results as well? Okay. Can you all see the results? Kenya. Okay. All right, and I've pretty much spoken about the findings. All right, let's move on. Next slide, please. All right, my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. David Odiambo. I met David recently. We've known David for many years. He's one of Empower's strongest partners, and we've known each other for many years. Met him again physically. We were together in Nairobi in December. David is a strategic business leader and has deep expertise in regulatory affairs, policy shaping, and pharmaceutical market development. While he has all of those, I'd say his real strength is also in networking and providing guidance and support. I've heard him speak at different events, and we've been together in some of these. Provides a lot of interesting background and information. So with that, next slide, please. I'd like to give the floor to David to continue.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, everyone. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes,
Just
please
confirm
continue.
you can hear me. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So for today, in terms of this conversation, when I got this invitation, the key question that I was keen on is, how do we look at pool procurement as an enabler and as a key driver of the work that we're doing to ensure there's reliability and access to safe, effective, and quality health products and technologies in the continent of Africa? But I would say it's something that is critical all over the world. But in this context, we're looking at it from an African lens. As already introduced, I currently serve as Executive Director with African Pharmaceutical Network, which is a platform bringing together different stakeholders across Africa with a focus on knowledge sharing, policy shaping, and in nurturing partnership that will enable us deliver the health products and technologies that we need. Then grounded by that, then you ask yourself, when we talk about pharmaceutical sovereignty, where does that come from and where are we? And I would say, before we look at pharmaceutical sovereignty, we have to look at it from the essence that we're looking at having people stay healthy and having the means to have authority and control over our well-being, our access to healthcare solutions and products and services in whichever context we are. And in this context is each of our member countries within the African continent must guarantee there's reliability and access to safe, effective, and quality health products and services, and all the populace in the continent are safe and are able to deliver on it is whatever it is that they're looking forward to, and that is keeping their populace healthy. So when you look at the principle of health sovereignty, it's a concept of nations, communities, or individuals having control and self-determination over their own health systems, policies, resources, and well-being, and reducing that reliance on external powers to build resilient localized health capabilities, especially around drug production. And this is now what brings us to the pharmaceutical component that we're talking about, research on emerging and pressing healthcare challenges in the geographies that we're operating in, and ultimately having a robust public health response mechanism in case of emergencies and public health outbreaks, whatever it is. So it's about driving that local self-reliance. When we talk about pharmaceutical sovereignty, maybe go back a little bit. When we look at pharmaceutical sovereignty, and that is where the conversation is coming here at the moment, it's becoming a conversation guided by a couple of issues. One, we had a trigger point during COVID pandemic. And I remember that is the point when we started off our work with African Pharmaceutical Network. The continent of Africa with 1.2 billion people had only 357 ventilators. That is a gap. And there's more that needed to be done. On the other end, subsequently last year, when we had the kind of the USAID funding freeze, we understand that most of our public health programs have been dependent and reliant on USAID funding, and therefore then there is need to build more and actually ensure there's reliability in health products. And when we talk about pharmaceutical sovereignty, is looking at our ability in our own nations to control our own health technologies, ensuring there's reliability and access to essential medicines, vaccines, and diagnostics by building domestic research and development to develop innovation that really serve local needs, manufacturing them within the continents and within the regions, or making them closer to where we need them, and reducing reliance on foreign supply chain, because when there is disruptions, there's almost no guarantee that we'll have them available for the people that we're providing for. And when you look at the UN statutes and charter, health is a basic need and it's a human right with the mandate that each and every single government as a sovereign state must guarantee there's reliability and access to healthcare services. And this is the essence of what we're looking at in this particular conversation. So when we go to the next slide and you look at it from where does the issue of pharmaceutical sovereignty come from and where is our situation? Maybe you can go to the next slide. So when we look at it from the context of what are our impediments, and I have a schematic that has only 3 layers of it, and I'll try to capture it in summarized form. When we look at pharmaceutical sovereignty, as I've talked about, we ask ourselves, what are the key constraints and the key challenges that we have in that ecosystem? Number one, we have limited local pharmaceutical manufacturing, which is a problem. For example, when we look at the Kenyan context, I would say we have around 40% of local manufacturing that is serving our needs. And Dr. Tracy will be talking more to this. But then the question is, how do we move it to the next level? When you look at that number at the same time, we understand that the local industry is still working at almost half of its internal capacity. So it means there is that capacity, but it's not being utilized. And that comes to the next question that we need to ask ourselves. Why are we not harnessing the local capabilities to ensure that the local needs that are there within the industry can be harnessed and can actually deliver for the people who are within the continent? 2, we look at issues on budgetary constraints and limitations in terms of access to resources.
Sorry,
And this is
David.
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. We're just getting the right slides for you, so we'll just have you continue speaking, and your slides are coming right up. So please continue. Okay.
Thank you. And the bit of this particular moment I was talking about is the budgetary constraints. When you look at initially funding for most programs has been mostly through donor-funded programs, there's a constraint in terms of having these resources available to the people who need them, and that becomes an impediment. And on the other end, governments with constrained budgets are not able to budget for these and fund them. When we look at the Abuja Declaration talking about 15% of healthcare, 50% of national budgets would be allocated to healthcare, on this other level we are looking at, I would say there was a point when South Africa got to 8%. Currently, we don't have any country, the continent, that has met that target. And when you look at the budgetary provisions on financing healthcare, it will only be about the healthcare services. How much of that percentage goes to medicines and medical products? And even at the moment, with a couple of reforms that are happening across the countries, most of the budgets are not ring-fenced to purchase and procurement of health products and technologies. Becomes a constraint and a challenge in terms of guaranteeing availability of the products where they're needed. Then workforce capacity shortfalls is always going to be an issue. Unless we have people who understand how do we work around optimizing our distribution value chain from a supply chain standpoint, that is a gap that needs to be addressed. And then we have a disjointed industry ecosystem. And when I look at this is from a point of, we were talking about sovereignty starting from the research in the formulation science to the last mile delivery of the product at the primary healthcare level. If the researcher who is working in the research and development facility in the laboratory does not interface with the clinician, they will develop a solution that cannot go to market. And in between, we need intermediaries. How are regulators transforming and actually informing developmental priorities to address the clinical needs at the point of care? So we have to have that integration in that ecosystem. We have to get people talking to each other and delivering solutions in a joint way. Then local ownership of the pharmaceutical agenda must be there. And I would say this is one of the reasons as to why we started off with work with African Pharmaceutical Network. Bring people from different walks of life and different professional capabilities into the platform, but then have engagement where we have local ownership of where the challenges need to happen. If we leave our local challenges to outsiders and externalities, it becomes a problem. And I normally reflect on this based on my background and my community. I normally say, hunger in your brother's house might not stop you from sleeping. So then the question is, how do you ensure that you're feeding your family and you're actually helping your brother sorting out their issues? Otherwise, you're having a situation where things will be out of control and you're not able to sort your needs. That is a key point. So what is the promise of the pool procurement? Affordability becoming a challenge. If we procure we go to pool procurement, therefore we are procuring in substantial quantities, we are reducing the prices and substantially ensuring reliability in access. And that is the essence of it, looking at serving a continent of 1.2, 1.5 billion. If we have our member countries aggregating demands, we're able to meet our obligations and actually guarantee that the limited resources we have are being efficiently used and we're getting the product to the people who need them within the timelines. 2, demand and purchase guarantees. The industry needs incentives. When you look at it as 50% local capability in terms of production, which is being utilized. The other 50% is lying idle. If we can use that, that becomes an opportunity. And it also becomes a question where, why would I drive more local manufacturing when there's no demand for that product? And I think with pool procurement, we are guaranteeing those orders and therefore incentivizing the industry to invest in local production capability. Efficiencies in resource utilization, using it where it's necessary, that I've already talked about when I was looking at the economies of scale. And lastly, improved access and positive health outcomes. And the ultimate principle behind all we talk about improved health sovereignty, pharmaceutical sovereignty, is improving our healthcare outcomes for the patients, for the public, and for the citizens in the countries where we are working. And if we can guarantee that, that is a win for us. So where do we start in this journey, and what does that look like for us? We look at it from one, we have to have all these conversations that we talk about. It doesn't happen unless there are competent professionals, meaningfully engaged and involved in the delivery of healthcare services. So can we drive and ramp up our skills development efforts? So that is a key priority. And I remember from when we had the first conversation and started engaging with Paul in 2022, how do we make professional courses available to people who need these skills to be able to deliver solutions? On our end, the same thing of what we're doing with African Pharmaceutical Network under the Pharmacy Academy. We need to build contextualized skills and nurture talent to deliver these interventions. It is the professionals who do the work. It is not the assumption that we might have that, oh, things will happen by themselves. We will know what happened, and we need to empower people to deliver them. Two, local ownership. We must own our narrative, we must own our problems, and most importantly, we must own the solutions. And ownership involves investing in them, shaping the agenda, doing the actual work, and course correcting when we need to course correct, because it's not guaranteed that we'll be doing the right thing all through. So that is an opportunity for us. The last thing is we have to implement. When we talk every other day and fail to implement, we are not going to guarantee that our people have the right solution that they need. And I think this is the challenge that we're giving all of you in this particular call. The 659 of us, what are we doing in our own individual capacities to ensure that we aggregate those capabilities, deliver solutions, and guarantee that we're in a continent where everybody has reliable access to safe, effective, and quality health products and technologies. With that, I get it back to you, Paul.
Yeah, excellent. No, David, it's still with you. I'm going to emphasize a couple of things, and then I'd like to ask you to share your life journey as well, what brought you where you are today, because that would be very valuable for the participants to learn and understand. So to the participants here, this framework that has been presented in the 3 stages, what are the impediments or the challenges? What the solution of pool procurement brings? And there are elements which also, pool procurement isn't a solution for everything, but it definitely moves us in that direction. And it's one of the strategies to increase access to quality assured medicines and health products, and then specific way forwards that he suggested. So this is one of the takeaways. Definitely walk away. We'll share the whole presentation with you, but focus on this particular slide. And there are, most recently, about a few months ago, there was the launch of the African Medicines Agency, AMA. Prior to that, there were the regional, there are national regulatory bodies, there are regional initiatives in SADC, in EAC, and others, and now the continental mechanism. All of these are vital to help promote pool procurement. Without it, it becomes, without these continental mechanisms, it's really difficult. Because what you're doing is the manufacturers and the others are assuring that the quality is cross-cutting. And you'll hear more examples of that from Rosalind as well, and how the Caribbean have done it as well. Well, and anytime you do any of these activities, a new initiative, always start small and then expand. So when you hear from Rosalind, it'll give you a sense of how we might be expanding across the continent as well. David, very briefly, if you could walk us through your journey from a young graduate student or undergraduate student to where you are today, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. So I would say in terms of my professional journey, I graduated in 2019 with my pharmacy degree from Jomo Kenyatta University, and I know I've seen some of my former lecturers in this forum. At that particular moment, you're transitioning from school, and I would say from a government employment perspective, the automatic posting for pharmacists and doctors, healthcare professionals had been suspended in 2017. So that moment, you're looking for mentors who are able to walk the journey with you, hold your hand, and point you in directions. And I was lucky enough that I had reached out to one of my senior colleagues within the industry who gave me an opportunity to work within one of the trade associations, that is the Kenya Healthcare Federation. At that particular moment, I started as a project associate. And actually, I would say that was the second role. The first one was working as a data clerk in one of the clinical hospitals that was digitizing their healthcare solutions and healthcare programs. So that is looking at the whole healthcare facility. Then from there, I moved to Kenya Healthcare Federation. And ultimately, when I finished my role with the Kenya Healthcare Federation, I got my first employment job with the Kenya Association of Pharmaceutical Industry. This particular moment, this was more of an industry leadership role, coordinating industry engagement, coordinating priorities from a business priority, but also looking at engaging with government agencies and shaping policies. At that point, for me, it was more of learning because I have an inclination towards love for policy and leadership work in my professional journey. But I was keen on asking myself, how do we make it work at scale? So I would say learning and listening to people most of those times shaped my trajectory. And through working with Kapi for 1.5 years, I got my next opportunity with Novartis, which was by the virtue of being within Kapi. I met my former boss within Novartis at that particular moment who was looking to employ somebody into supporting regulatory affairs and a little bit of policy work, which was what I'd been doing for the last 2.5 years. So I got my first job with them at that particular moment to join Novartis, served as a regulatory associate 2021 through 2024 last year, 2024, so August. That was 3.5 years that I did with Novartis. At the end of that period with Novartis, I decided to take a pause and go back to school. And I went to do my MBA at Oxford, which I finished last year, September. And ultimately embarked on coming back to build what we had started off in 2020 with African Pharmaceutical Network. So I would say the work that I'm leading with African Pharmaceutical Network at this point started in campus through some of the initiatives that I was involved in. Two, it was augmented by my leadership experience, but also learning through mentors during my formative phases after graduation. Kenya Healthcare Federation, Dr. Amit Thacker was a great mentor, Dr. Anastasia Nyalita, and a couple of other senior leaders. Then Novartis supported me that through my former boss, Dr. Sarah Mudhuri. And the Novartis ecosystem, you get to learn policy, but also learning policy from a business side of it in terms of what will make the business invest, but also from a community level, because I didn't disintegrate from the community where I'm part of. You have a product that you're supplying, but the patient is calling you and telling you, we don't have this medicine available, and therefore we have a challenge. So the question is, where is the gap? Where is the opportunity? And how do we actually facilitate those engagements? So that has been my journey over time, and that is what I'm focusing on now with African Pharmaceutical Network.
Thank you, David. So the takeaway message that I hear from this is different areas in the industry, you explored them, then you found your own space. But in all of this, throughout the process, you're growing, you're learning, you're going back to school, and you're learning again. Very interesting. Thank you and congratulations for what you've already achieved in the short years that were 6-7 years of experience. Wonderful. Next slide, please. Let's move on to hearing from Tracy now. Let me introduce her first. So this is the country level perspective. Let me see her next slide. I don't see her profile yet. Here we go. Dr. Tracy Wanjiru Njonjo is a senior health products and technology supply chain leader with over 20 years of experience strengthening health systems in Kenya. She serves as the Senior Deputy Director of Pharmaceutical Services, Ministry of Health of Kenya. To be working in government at that level, she's obviously seen a lot of challenges and a lot of solutions that she would have applied. So we'd love to hear from her on this. And she has extensive experience in health products, forecasting, quantification, procurement planning, of course, pool procurement will be some of them, donor-funded programs, USAID, World Bank, among others, MPH, SIPs, pharmacist. So it seems that she can't stop learning and getting accredited. Next slide, please. With that, I give the floor to Tracy. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, and good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's a pleasure to be here. Paul has given a short background on my professional and career journey. So I'm a pharmacist by training with a background in public health and a diploma in procurement and supplies management. 95% of my career has been in the public service. I have had the pleasure of working from sub-county management level to national logistics at the Central Medical Supplies Agency, which is Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, to program management, and eventually to where I am right now at national level, where we deal with policy, strategic direction, capacity building, and technical assistance to our various stakeholders. This journey has allowed me to see the supply chain from the ground level all the way to the national strategy. I have also worked briefly. I took a short stint away from the public service to work with a development partner, which gave me exposure to both government and donor systems. So today's session, we'll have a discussion on pooled procurement from a national level perspective. And I have the pleasure of working in the division called Quality Assurance and Market Shaping, where we are pushing or driving the agenda on pooled procurement. So from a Ministry of Health perspective, we have a bit of policy and strategic documents that have been put together. So some are passed, and currently we are working on a health products and technology policy, which is under development. Our mandate as a directorate in the Ministry of Health, under the Directorate of Health Products and Technologies, our mandate has broadened beyond pharmaceuticals. We are looking at medical supplies, we are looking at medical diagnostics and medical equipment. So we are trying to put together a document that would look at the broader health products and technologies. Then we also have emerging issues that have come over time between 2012 and currently. And the previous policy was also done before devolution, where county governments are now taking responsibility on matters health. We also have a supply chain strategy, which is under evaluation and looking forward to development of a new strategy. Next slide. So we have, before we get to the pooled procurement, so we provide this strategic direction to public and private sector. But within the public sector, we tend to come up together with an essential list of health products and technologies, just to guide our public health facilities on what medicines, medical supplies, and medical diagnostics that they would focus on procuring, since we have limited resources. So we have the three lists that are shown there, and they're currently being reviewed. And at the point of reviewing them, we get input from both various stakeholders, both in private and public sector, and also looking at any new molecules for treatment or any new ways of handling disease, priority diseases. Then for quantification, we've moved from manual tools to digital tools to help counties and with their public health facilities quantify their needs. Without them quantifying the needs, we will not procure quantities of health products and technologies that are actually necessary for their health facilities. Thus, you'd end up hearing frequent stockouts of some of the health products and overstocking of some, leading to expiries. Procurement or in the public health sector is centrally done by Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. So they procure based on these essential lists. So that is why it is important to get them right through the stakeholder engagement. And also we have this authority procuring for our strategic health programs, who determine their needs based on their treatment guidelines. So procurement in Kenya is guided under the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015. And this is overseen by the PPRA, the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority. So any procurement within the public health sector has to be within these legal confines. So we are already doing pooled procurement where KEMSA, or the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, pulls together all requirements for the counties in the country for all the public health facilities, all the way from level 2 to level 6, and procures on their behalf. So some of the advantages they have when they pool procurement is they enhance the purchasing power on matters economies of scale. They are able to get also good prices, and also in quality assurance of the health products that are purchased. So health products security is no longer viewed purely as a matter of just supply chain. It's embedded within now our national policies and economic strategies, even when you look at the Kenya Vision 2030. So our reforms would align with the universal health coverage and a local manufacturing strategy that we have just done. So why pooled procurement? So Africa still imports the majority of its health products and technologies, especially its medicines and all other medical devices. So this dependency exposes us during global shocks and price volatility, and when it comes to supply disruptions. So the question is not whether we can afford to coordinate, it is whether we can afford not to. Next. So at the core, pooled procurement is not just simply about aggregating the demand for countries, rather individually. And the Africa Pooled Procurement Mechanism is an initiative being driven by Africa CDC, where it's bringing various countries together to see how we can achieve the benefits of pulling together procurement. So there's already ongoing discussions around this. So engagement between the buyers, the various countries, and checking whether we have the same or similar perceived problems or opportunities. Then there's a point of alignment on goals, the purpose, and the products, the specific products that pooled procurement would be done. And this would end up having a shared plan in terms of what would be identified for or priority for procurement. Then execution of the plan with a clear organizational structure with room for a lot of flexibility and adaptation. And then with time, as it becomes a routine from the first point, become a trusted and established actor and find a way to incentivize buyers and suppliers. So when countries move from fragmented purchasing to coordinated negotiation, they'll increase their bargaining power, reduce duplication. Prices will stabilize further and create a predictable demand. So the impact of pooled procurement, when we look at this graphical representation, so the blue shows a fragmented procurement, how we are seeing fragmented procurement versus pooled procurement. So when it comes to price efficiency, when it comes to supply security and market stability, with pooled procurement, this is meant to have a great improvement. When it comes to local manufacturing incentives, local manufacturing is at the core of driving pooled procurement, where the hope with pooled procurement is our local manufacturers, our regional manufacturers for health products and technologies would be the ones meeting this demand for the region.
Could I just pause? Sorry, just go back.
Yes.
Tracy, thank you. This is a really important slide, and I just wanted to emphasize this with the participants as well. So blue is before pool procurement, red is with pool procurement. And depending on how much pooling, how much aggregation you do, the multiplier can be much, much higher as well. Just to give you a sense, Kenya has a population of 50 plus million. EAC, the Eastern European community, EAC, East African community, has almost 300 plus million. Then you've got, that compares to the entire United States, which is about 340 million, and the European Union, which is about 400 million. The point being that if you are just buying for 50 million people versus if you're buying for 300 million people, you can get better, exactly what's written, price efficiencies. If manufacturers are producing not just for one country, but multiple countries, you get so much more motivation and incentives. You can have larger production lines. You can have, so with a slight change, you can produce a lot more, your cost per product goes down. So you're pooling resources, you're pooling the population, you are therefore then responding to those needs. So this is another takeaway slide as well for the audience. Tracy, please continue. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And with the pooled procurement, we are able to reduce transaction costs, get better pricing, as Paul has indicated, a guaranteed market for our local manufacturers. There's been a strain where they're not able to sell within their markets, but this would be a good assurance on clinching that market. Then we reduce dependency and vulnerability during global crisis, like what we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic. So pooled procurement is a decisive step towards improving access and supporting the local manufacturers, the regional manufacturers. In Kenya, we have around 40 pharmaceutical manufacturers. So it would open up the market for them. So the division I mentioned where we work, or where I work, is responsible for providing leadership on the local manufacturing of health products and technologies. And we have even been in regional conversations on how to drive this forward with the Africa Union, with IGAD and other regional agencies and organizations. So we have a strategy that we have just completed to be launched soon. It's called the Kenya Health Products and Technology Local Manufacturing Strategy 2026 to 2030. It has a multi-sectoral involvement with the Ministry of Health providing coordination. I know many are wondering, the government is not in the manufacturing business. Yes, we are not, but we can coordinate and bring all the players together, especially various ministries. If you look at the impact on local manufacturers, many complain about high energy costs. They would like some tax incentives. They would like to have investors coming to the market. So this is the role Ministry of Health is going to take with this strategy in bringing all these people together. Then we also have the advantage of His Excellency the President being the local HPT local manufacturing champion at the Africa Union. In fact, with the just completed AU Summit, he had a session where he was able to address the summit on this issue. Next. So some of the market shaping tools around local manufacturing, which would also shape matters to do with pooled procurement, is having long-term frameworks, long-term framework agreements, which will give local manufacturers predictability. Then on preferential procurement mechanisms to support African producers versus suppliers who are bringing health products from outside. Then local content incentives to build domestic value chains, and then blended financing and de-risking instruments to attract private capital. We need more investors from out there coming to invest in the region, even here in Kenya, so that our local manufacturing capacity can expand, both the installed and for new products. And then I saw still someone asking a question about regulatory harmonization and AMA, which was recently established. So this is targeted under AMA and to remove the duplication and delays that come in when it comes to approval of products. So what is currently happening under the Africa Pools Procurement Mechanism through Africa CDC? So they've identified 10 priority health products under women and children health for consideration for implementation of the mechanisms, with 10 countries as pilot countries. So Kenya is amongst the frontrunner. We recently received the legal framework from Africa CDC, which we are reviewing to see how this can be achieved while looking at our laws that govern public procurement in the country and see how maybe this can be adjusted or amended to fit in to the agenda, because it's a beneficial agenda. Africa CDC is also working with various partners and agencies for this to be achieved. So on some of the strategic risks and how to mitigate this, we have seen...
Tracy,
Tracy,
if we could bring this to the end in the Q&A, I think that will be important in the next couple of slides. And then we'll, because I want to make sure Rosalind gets enough time as well. But save this for the discussions. And if you want to just have your closing summary point overall, and then we'll hand over to Rosalind. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So just to say, when Africa aggregates its demand, it amplifies its power economically, industrially, and strategically. So pooled procurement is not simply just about buying health products and technologies together. It's about Africa's local manufacturing strength, or HPT strength, together. And that's how we can move from dependency to sovereignty. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Great ending. Thank you. Thank you for that, Tracy. With that, allow me to introduce you to Rosalind, the diaspora of Kenya, with nearly 3 decades of global experience across Africa and the Caribbean. She has transformed humanitarian and public procurement systems across 11 countries of the Eastern Caribbean. So here you're going to hear from with a specific example, not theory, but how she's actually done this. And Rosalind, if you could also just talk about your journey from national to global and how you arrived there. Begin with that and then go into the technical. Thank you. Over. We can't hear you yet, Rosalind. Are you able to unmute yourself? No. Can you try to unmute her from here? Yeah, go ahead. Can't hear you. Or can you hear? No. Rosalind, you're unmuted, but we don't hear you. Nothing yet, not coming through yet. You were loud and clear in the test. Not yet. Nope. While we're waiting for her, Rosalind, keep trying. Let me just mention a couple of points, picking up on what Tracy and David have said. One of the speakers that we had invited for today is Dr. Tala Jallow. She is actually, she couldn't speak today because she's in the process of transitioning to become the new head of Africa CDC's pooled procurement mechanism. And you heard about that from several of the speakers already. And we will, when we repeat this session, maybe in a few months' time, we'll invite her to give her perspective once she's settled in to the Africa CDC and she's had a chance to work on some of these activities as well. Okay. So just keep that in mind. There's a new leader. She's originally from the Gambia, and she was one of my colleagues at the Global Fund, where she did some incredible work on the WAMBO platform and pooled procurement, not for a few countries, but across more than 100 countries. So you can imagine the power of pooled procurement over there. The other point, why don't we do this in the meantime? If I could request the audience to start typing some of your questions. And then what I'll do is let me continue and I can go to the career side and then we can come back to Roslyn so we don't lose this valuable moment. Roslyn, you are unmuted, but we don't hear you. Maybe do you want to just log off and log in again to be on the safe side? See if that works, because we heard you well before. In the meantime, can you take it? I can start the career session. Sorry, give me one second. Rosalind, did you want to try and join again? It might solve a few things, okay? Let me just continue with the careers. Go ahead. So based on what we saw and the individuals that were there, most of you have less than 5 years experience. That was the model in terms of the presence. So the next generation African youth, and especially African women, that's a target for not just what Empower does, but the entire continent is focused on that, and the African Union is focused on that. Academia and pharmaceutical sciences and pooled individuals who want to come into the pooled procurement side. Next. And remember, we'll be sharing these slides with you. If you look at the career level, entry level, mid-level, and senior level, these are current opportunities available for being hired and where organizations are looking for people in. If you look at the next 3 columns, it could be procurement. It could be procurement and supply chain. So pooled procurement would come there. Program and operational management in these areas, or leadership and strategy, again, in the areas of procurement, supply chain, access to medicines. So depending on your background, if you are a hardcore pharmacist or you are a legal person or a strategist, you could join many of these different areas. You're a project management professional, you could join a different area. And as you can see, the different positions from entry-level officers to managers to director level. And we've just taken a sample of these. You'll find many more of these. So we looked at some of the employers that would be of potential interest. Take a look at that. Central medical stores or national medical stores of different countries, UN agencies, NGOs, Global Fund country programs. Empower is also hiring, Gavi, Chai, etc. So there are many. And then which sites do you go to? That's on the right side. What platforms and sites? And we keep sharing more information. So if you know what you would like to explore or what you would like to areas you'd like to work in, there's a lot of information available. You just need to target. And we're happy to guide, and the colleagues here, the leaders here are happy to guide as well. Empower offers these longer programs, diplomas, postgraduate diplomas, and master's degrees in partnership with the UN, with FIP, and various other partners. APN is a core partner as well. We offer both short and long courses. APN also offers short courses. So depending on what you're interested in, you're able to enroll in any of those. And here, if you do a one-year postgraduate diploma, you can top up with another postgraduate diploma and get a master's degree as well. There's also the postgraduate diploma in, go back, in supply data management and supply chain. So there's supply chain. This is data management in supply chain. All right, next slide. You can skip this. Next slide. Some of the short courses, if depending on what area that you're interested in, you can pick any of these that you'd like to work in. There's more information on the website, whatever you might need, and also at APNs. Next. And coming up are 2 postgraduate diplomas, one in regulatory sciences and one in pharmaceutical manufacturing. This should be out in the next 3 to 4 months. It's under review process. And as soon as it's accredited and certified, we will let you know. So as job seekers, as growers in the industry, you heard from David, he studied, he worked, went back to study, willing to invest. And I'm sure it was expensive, and maybe he even got a full scholarship, and then came back to the country. Tracy, similarly, multiple degrees. First of all, optimize your profile, whether it's on LinkedIn or whichever area. And it's never about a single CV. Depending on what you're interested in and who you're writing to, you need to adapt your profile. You need to adapt your cover letter. So optimize, number one. When I remember as a 25-year-old, 30-year-old, I'm looking for jobs, you would never, the worst strategy is I have one CV and one cover letter and I send it to everybody. It's the perfect way to get rejected. That doesn't work. Learn new skills. What's happening today with the innovations, with AI, with new introductions, if you don't keep yourself updated, you would be outdated in a matter of a year or 2 years. You would be obsolete, whether you've studied pharmacy or engineering or any of the health sciences. So you have to keep learning. Register on multiple platforms and then join professional associations, academia, conferences for all of these. Super important. Okay. Can you please check if Rosalind is able to join? So could I keep typing? There's a Q&A session as well. I know we're pretty much out of time. Let me just see where the questions are coming in from.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Rosalind, very well.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Rosalind, what we'll do is, I know we're out of time, but I would request the audience, if you have another 5 to 7 minutes, to listen to Rosalind's work experience. Is she still there? I don't see her.
Yes, I am here.
You're there. Okay. Can you make sure that she can open her video as well, and please start her slides. So Rosalind, if you could take 5 minutes to just focus on the key slides, and then what we'll do is we'll spend a few minutes for those who can stay to answer their questions as well. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Your slides are up.
Okay, my apologies again for that mishap. My name is Rosalind Opel. I'll just go very fast because mine is more of a story. But even as I go through it, please do not miss the technical part of it because there's quite a technical in the story. But I'm Rosalind Opel. I'm a Kenyan. I'm based out of St. Lucia. My personal journey into the Caribbean started during the COVID. So the first flights out of Kenya, that's the flight that I was in on April, I think, 15th, that brought me into the Caribbean to lead the pool procurement for the small island states. So the Eastern Caribbean is composed of 11 small islands, and it has a total population of about 645,000 people. However, they have a structured pool procurement for health products, and this was recognized because of the small of the individual small countries that were not able to bargain effectively as individual countries. So they did go as a collective. So for me, some of the things that when I came into the Caribbean, one of the things that I noticed coming from Kenya and having led between 2005 and 2012, I was in charge of Global Fund and TB and malaria logistics for Somali, for the whole of Somali. And I was also the procuring agent for the government of Somali then during those tumultuous times for their health products. So coming from that context, and when I came into the Caribbean, and you could see the volumes that were very small in the Caribbean, while in Africa and in Somali, the scale of procurement was quite high. So one of the other things that I realized was the importance of health sovereignty. And what I realized is that health sovereignty is impossible in isolation, and it required regional solidarity, one of the things that the Eastern Caribbean had really done well. And one of the key messages for me that I keep on repeating is that one island is just a customer, but 11 islands acting together constituted a market. Then I'll go into the structural challenges. I have only focused on two major structural challenges because these are quite unique to the region and they're quite unique to the Caribbean. So we look at the population. I just wanted to highlight the population. The next slide, I wanted to highlight the population. The Eastern Caribbean has 654,000 people, a GDP of 8 billion. The wider Caribbean, that is the whole Caribbean, which is under CARICOM, has 44.8 million people, a GDP of 420 billion. Africa has about 1.58 billion people with a GDP of 3.1 trillion. So that shows you the scale of disparity because the islands are quite small and the populations are small. So while the Caribbean remains largely fragmented, the OECS, which is the Eastern Caribbean, has unified as one buyer. And I'm glad that I'm now seeing Africa emerging through the African Medicines Agency. And I also had an opportunity in 2024, 2025 to input into the African pool procurement mechanism through the African CDC into how they developed their governance structure and how they developed the pool procurement mechanism in terms of financing. So when we look at the impact of scale, so we realize that the small islands often fall below the minimum order quantities set by manufacturers. So the smaller islands were always overlooked by the bigger manufacturers for bigger markets, because then the volumes they would sell to the bigger markets would be more higher. So the smaller islands were always getting what was remaining, or when the suppliers had extra capacity, excess capacity, then they would distribute to the islands. So there were longer wait times, there were longer lead times for the Caribbean countries, and this also resulted in higher unit costs because the production was low, if you have to get production on priority, then it was low and then you would get it at a higher cost. So that is some of the challenges that we faced in the Caribbean. Then we have the fragmented logistics, which is quite rampant within the Caribbean. And normally we do call it the island paradox, where low volume creates higher costs because of direct shipping routes, which bypass small islands. So what we do is there is double or triple handling of shipments of medicines across different hubs. So we have a hub in Panama, we have another hub in Miami. So any medicine coming from China or India would go into Panama, or it would go into Miami, then into the islands, into one of the major island hubs, which is either Barbados or Antigua. Then it waits until we are able to get flights into the smaller islands. So that added to the cost of the medicines, but also it created vulnerabilities within the supply chain system, especially for vaccines, where you have to keep the vaccines waiting for a long time, either on tarmac or on warehouses. And as we know, the temperatures within the Caribbean are quite high. So it's quite a logistical nightmare in terms of getting medicines from the suppliers to the islands. Remember that in the Caribbean, there is no single manufacturer in the island. So we are highly dependent on imports. So all the products are imported. The other thing that I looked at is the regulatory and climate vulnerabilities. So in the Caribbean, we do not have any stringent regulatory authority, and the only national regulatory authority that exists and functions is in Jamaica. So most of the islands, we rely on the Jamaican National Regulatory Authority, or we rely on FDA and any other internationally recognized regulatory authority. So this has really created a problem for us, because before we import in a drug, then we need to make sure that it has passed, and we have to liaise with all the other regulatory authorities to make sure that the supplies that we are bringing into the islands are approved and they are of the right quality. More often than not, we have this has created artificial shortages, meaning that there are times when we have a drug that is seated because we have not gotten an approval to get it into the islands because of the documentation that is required. So without a formal system to pivot on, supplies between islands can sometimes created a total system blackout in terms of information and in terms of access. So what are the lessons that I have learned, and what some of the lessons that I would want to share for Africa to be able to learn from? And just before we go to the lessons, let me just give a brief. The OECS PPS, that's the Pool Pharmaceutical Procurement Unit, was established in 1986 as a self-financing, and it surcharges the government. So there's a governance structure, which is a policy board that's headed by the ministers of health and permanent secretaries from member states. And the chairmanship the seat of the chair is on a rotational basis from all the islands. Then it operates as a monopsony for the government. So for all the 11 governments are mandated by the OECS authority to procure all their essential medical supplies through the OECS PPS. So there is no other body that the government procures through except through the pool procurement mechanism. So there's an essential medical list. There's a system that's specifically dedicated to that pool procurement and there's a revolving fund through the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. So that's the central bank for all the governments, and that's where the OECS PPS banks through. So the broader lessons for me that Africa could learn was the OECS proves that you don't need $1 trillion economy for bargaining power. What you need is a unified procurement system. And when you're looking at a unified procurement system, we realize that we also need the political willpower and the political goodwill to be able to move the pool procurement and the unified system. And this was passed through a law in 1986 that mandated the governments to oblige to it. And as head of pool procurement, then I would report to the authority, to the OECS authority that is made of the prime ministers for all the member states once every year. So the other thing that I am looking at, other lesson is if the wider Caribbean is unified. So right now, what is unified is only the Eastern Caribbean. That's the 654,000 persons. If the 44.8 would unify again in the same manner, which is currently now being spearheaded through CARICOM, we hope that this can become a reality. It would become a $500 billion pharmaceutical block. Then that expands that monopsony and the bargaining power. And that also reflects to Africa. So by applying this pooled logic to Africa, the 3.1 trillion economy, the continent can move from being a price taker to a price setter globally. One of my passions is following up on how the African pool procurement mechanism is functioning, because I know, having seen the power in the smaller islands, I know there's greater power in Africa uniting and being a price setter and not a price taker as we currently are. So I'll look at the careers within the procurement market, and I'm not only looking at the regional in terms of the Eastern Caribbean. I've looked at the larger Caribbean and the Latin America, and I've also looked at it in the eyes of PAHO WHO. So PAHO is the governing body for the Eastern Caribbean, is the sister organization to WHO. So some of the opportunities that come up in the region out of the pool procurement, because PAHO also runs a revolving fund mechanism that functions almost similar as the OECS, PPS. There are opportunities in terms of regional procurement officers, there are sourcing managers and demand forecasters. These are regional, that's a higher level, not a country specific. We also have opportunities in terms of GMP inspectors, dossier assessors, and pharmacovigilance leads. And again, that's at a higher level besides the country level, because there's that unity in the region. The other thing that we have seen is revolving fund managers and international trade lawyers. And just because we trade with other regions and with other countries as a trading bloc, then it's important that finance and legal is embedded into the pool procurement mechanism. Then there's the opportunity, which is quite big in terms of health informatics and supply chain IT architects. This is something that I think the world over we need. And we also have the policy, which is market access managers and the sovereignty advocates.
Yeah, let's just pause here, Rosalind. A lot of questions are coming in from the audience regarding careers and how to work in this area. Can just that last slide, which will, like we said, we'll share the slide deck. Is it gives you an options. Now we saw that there were people who weren't just from a pharmacy background, but multiple. Public health was one of the key areas. So many different backgrounds. You can join many different areas. That's what that key slide indicated. Don't think procurement is just for pharmacists or procurement experts. There's a wide array of skill sets and backgrounds that are needed. Okay. So with that, what I'd like to do is quickly run through the last poll so we get feedback from all of you, and then we go into the certificate distribution process as well. Thank you for staying a bit longer. I know we're 15 minutes overdue. We're pretty much done. 2 more minutes, please. Just launch the poll. And it should be up now. There you go. All right, I'm seeing that the quality of speakers, well done speakers, between excellent and good is pretty much 95%. Well done speakers, thank you. And Rosalind, despite the IT issue, you came in nice and strong. Wonderful.
Thank you.
And would you be interested in participating in future trainings and workshops? We're seeing 88, 90%. So we'll definitely continue on this theme and share more information. Following this webinar, which of the following actions are you most likely to pursue? We see that about 40+% want to become actively engaged and explore more in this area. Others want to strengthen their personal knowledge and capacity, so they want to learn and grow, that's 60%. Explore careers and job opportunities, about 35%. And share the knowledge gained with their colleagues, another 34%. So this was multiple, you could answer multiple boxes. So it wasn't just a single response. But the highest response is strengthen my personal knowledge and capacity. And that's, if there's one takeaway from all of this, you have to keep growing and keep learning. And that's what we picked up over here. How important is pool procurement? Everyone believes it's extremely or very important. Totally agree with you. 95% found, 96% found today's webinar highly relevant or moderately relevant. So it's in the top, but 75% highly relevant. So there's still room for improvement, and we're happy to do that. And almost 3/4 of you felt that there was a significant improvement in your understanding of pool procurement. Wonderful. Okay, let's stop sharing the poll. You can, we can end the poll at this stage. Let's go to the next and the last session. So you'll be receiving this certificate on pool procurement, exactly on the current topic. And we will see now, how do you actually get this? What's the process, team? Can you just type it in the chat? There you go. We'll stay on for a little bit, but just click on it and see if you're able to navigate the link. Fill in your email ID, name, country, organization. And this will get you the certificate that will come in your email. And while you're doing this, any team, any other guidance or any other instructions for the participants? So as soon as they complete that, they will get it in the email. And if they have any questions, they can come back. Okay. All right. If there's any issues, any challenges, the email ID is mentioned. You can reach out to anybody over there. It's actually at the bottom over there. Okay. Wonderful. Team, best before you all hang up, participants, and can we I'd like to see their videos. Everyone just open your videos, please. Can you just give them the option to do that so we can see everyone? We'll take a screenshot and make sure that this is available on our social media. Everybody, put your videos on. Stop the spotlight so we see everybody. Take away the spotlight. There we go. Team, you can pick the view. I think you can see everybody now. So there's 26 screens of people over here. If each screen is about 25 people, there's 26 screens. Can you stop the spotlight, please? Let's make sure we see everybody. There we go. Wonderful. And my apologies, when we did the poll, we forgot to include North Africa. And it was highlighted by Noor Gamal. Thank you for that. We are working closely with the Northern African region. And the Northern African region, in fact, is one of the leaders of local manufacturing. They are exporting. In terms of the continental average, you heard was about 70% is imported. In the Northern African countries, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, more than 70 to 80% is locally manufactured. It's the exact inverse. And so their skill sets, and they're exporting to Europe. Forget about exporting to Africa. These Northern African countries are exporting to Europe, to developed, very stringent markets. And the idea is, how do we learn from them and gain that experience as well in the rest of the continent? Okay. So everyone just wave so we can take the screenshots. I see a lot of friends. Great to see everybody. Thank you. I see Jayesh sitting on the beach or virtual beach. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Guys, have a beautiful evening, beautiful afternoon, beautiful day. Wonderful to see everyone. Thank you. All the best.